Let's speak to UNRWA themselves. Jonathan Fowler is the spokesperson and joins us now from occupied East Jerusalem. Jonathan, first of all, your reaction to this report, and I'm interested to know what will happen to the 12 members of staff. I can't remember if they were suspended or fired, but will they be reinstated?
Thank you very much indeed for posing that question. I just want to clarify one thing, that the report in itself was actually addressing our neutrality frameworks. It's a very different thing from the investigation into the 12 members of staff, which is a separate, independent United Nations investigation run by the UN Office of Internal Oversight Services. Now, that is still ongoing. However, what the report has flagged is that we have repeatedly shared our staff lists with all host authorities and Israel as the occupying power, and we've never had any concerns expressed about staff. But the allegations, and I stress these remain allegations against the 12 staff, those are still being investigated.
Yeah, and in this report, actually, you mentioned neutrality. There's 50 recommendations in the report, and it includes strengthening staff's neutrality, expressions of personal views in public. Will you be taking those on board and implementing them?
Absolutely. The report flags that we have the policies and systems in place. We are a very large organisation, and the report has also flagged the fact that an organisation with 30,000 people operating in a very politicised and complex environment with different narratives about what's happening in this region. But we are absolutely vociferous in the fact that safeguarding our neutrality matters, because it enables us to do our work both in Gaza amid this humanitarian crisis, but across the rest of the region, and that we deal with the complexities. But we are absolutely committed to improve. We take the recommendations on board, and we're developing an action plan already to implement them better. For example, in engagement with our donors, our governance, our oversight, how our staff unions function, the neutrality of our installations. No entity is perfect, but certainly this report flags the fact that we do have the systems in place, and in fact that we have more robust systems than many other international organisations.
Yeah, and in terms of the amount of money that UNRWA is getting, I know that a lot of donors have resumed their funding, but the US is still going to withhold funding for a year. That's a big setback for you guys.
Absolutely. The United States has long been our top donor, an extremely important partner. We continue dialogue with the US authorities at all levels, but as it stands, yes, many donors have returned, Canada, Australia, others. We're still hoping that the US approach will change, because the US makes up the overwhelming majority of the funding shortfall now. Overall, however, we've managed, because of the return of many donors, we're now facing a loss of income of 31%, whereas it was much more serious when the initial donor suspensions came into place. Now, that represents $267 million shortfall, which, of course, at this time, amid the war in Gaza, we simply cannot afford to have that situation continue.
And I'm interested in your dialogue as well with the Israeli authorities, because in order to carry out the aid operation in Gaza and indeed in the West Bank, you need to have a healthy working relationship with Israel. And given the allegations they've made, and I know that there's an investigation ongoing, how is that relationship at the moment? It must be difficult.
Well, on the practical level, we talk to Israeli interlocutors at all levels all the time. I mean, this is standard practice for the United Nations system around the world when we're dealing with humanitarian operations. We always need to speak to all parties in any conflict. Yes, of course, we have differences of opinion on the flow of aid getting into Gaza. I mean, it's clear to us that it's completely insufficient. We're supposed to get 500 trucks a day in to Gaza to meet the minimum needs of the people, the survival needs of the population, and we're getting, we're barely scraping 180 on average a day. That's simply not enough. So we have these discussions about being able to get things, make inspections less cumbersome, these kind of things. We do talk all the time because we need to, and we're always trying to resolve the issues.
All right, many thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate your time. Jonathan Fowler there, spokesperson for the UN's Humanitarian Agency for Palestinians.